Hey everyone! Before starting, I just wanted to thank those of you who watched my first video. It did way better than I expected, and I appreciated the kind words as well as the criticism it received. I especially wanted to thank those of you who subscribed. If you did that, you're awesome. If you haven't done that already, please do. You know where the button is. Now let's get started. This woman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, has blown up in the news the past few days. And, as you all know by now, when someone blows up in the news, it's hardly ever for doing something good. Marjorie Taylor Greene is in the news because she is, and I'm choosing my language very deliberately here, a crazy person. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a freshman congresswoman from Alabama. In January, organizations like CNN and Media Matters published a list of all the conspiracy theories Greene had endorsed, either by liking posts, writing articles, or explicitly saying she believed them. These lists were way too long to cover all in one video, so I'm going to give you a representative taste, just a little bite, of all the interesting things that Marjorie Taylor Greene has said, done, or believes. Greene has said that there's no evidence a plane ever crashed into the Pentagon on 9/11.
But we had witnessed 9/11, right? We had witnessed 9/11, the terrorist attack in New York, and the plane that crashed in Pennsylvania, and the so-called plane that crashed into the Pentagon. It's odd.
She speculated that the white nationalist riot in Charlottesville was an inside job. She suggested that Pelosi should be executed for treason. She believes the Parkland and Las Vegas mass shootings were false flag attacks set up so Democrats could begin gun confiscation. She said that the goal of Muslims and all Islam is Sharia, that Muslims want to conquer America so they can take women's freedoms, cover them in bedsheets, and mutilate their genitals, and, this one really takes the cake, she believes Hillary Rodham Clinton and Huba Abedin sexually assaulted a child and then filleted the child's face so it could be worn as a mask while they drank the child's blood during a satanic ritual. While the sheer lunacy of her remarks may be entertaining, it's impossible to fully describe how callous and awful some of them are. I could go on a monologue and try to describe how horrible all the things she said are, but I don't know that I'd be able to put it any better than Representative Ted Deutsch did during the Senate Rules Committee hearing.
The resolution was referred to the Committee on Ethics, but I am appearing before you today not only as the chair of that committee, but also as the representative of Parkland, Florida. Prior to her election, Representative Greene engaged in a long pattern of threatening and dangerous conduct against the survivors of the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. She called mass shootings in Parkland, in Las Vegas, and in Newtown staged false flag events. She called survivors crisis actors. Now, I have cried with the families of Parkland, and I've grieved with them. And in my wallet, I still, to this day, carry a sheet of paper with the names of their loved ones so that they're never forgotten in Congress. So, and Mr. Chairman, as we have this conversation, you're right, You've met families. We've all met the families. I just want to be clear. I'm here today in part because Alyssa Alhadeff and Scott Beagle and Martin Duque and Nick Dorette and Aaron Feiss and Jamie Guttenberg and Chris Hickson and Luke Hoyer and Carl Lofgren and Gina Montalto and Joaquin Oliver and Elena Petty and Meadow Pollack and Helena Ramsey and Alex Schachter and Carmen Chentrup and Peter Wang cannot be. The families are still grieving, as are the communities of Sandy Hook and Las Vegas, and too many more to name. There are not words in the English language to properly describe how the remarks of Ms. Greene makes these communities feel.
In response to the immense public backlash that Marjorie Taylor Greene received for her comments, the Congress voted to strip Representative Greene of her committee assignments on the evening of February 4th. She will no longer sit on the Education and Labor Committee or the Budget Committee. Given the circumstances, this decision seems reasonable. After all, how can we expect a person incapable of differentiating fantasy from reality to make substantive policy decisions that have the potential to affect the reality of millions of Americans? Though Republican Party leadership overwhelmingly condemned her rhetoric, actions, and conspiracy theories, only 11 House Republicans voted with the Democrats when a motion to strip her of her committee assignments came before the House. Why is that? The answer is that Republicans feared that if the House were to strip Green of her committee assignments over what are, to put it mildly and very technically, differences in opinion, it would set a dangerous precedent. They fear that normalizing the loss of committee assignments as a punitive measure could end up having negative long-term repercussions. After all, if this becomes the norm, the majority party could, in the future, use a congressperson's distasteful remarks as pretense to remove minority party members from important committees. While it's true that the committee removal process could become a partisan weapon, it seems unlikely, especially because Marjorie Taylor Greene's case is so uniquely extraordinary. Representative Jim McGovern put it best during the Senate Rules Committee hearing.
And look, in terms of precedent, you know, if the precedent's going to be that if somebody advocates putting a bullet in the head of a member of Congress, and if that is going to be the new determination as to what it takes to throw people off of committees, I'm fine with that.
Though she's already been stripped of both her committee assignments, there are some Democrats who think Marjorie Taylor Greene's punishment does not go far enough. Expulsion, California Representative Jimmy Green says, is necessary. Though rhetoric like that may make for great sound bites and sexy news headlines, in practice, it's probably a pretty terrible idea. In the entire history of the United States, only 20 people have ever been expelled from Congress, of which 17 were expelled for supporting the Confederacy. The first congressman ever expelled attempted to help the British conquer Florida and was accused of treason. The last 2 expulsions happened within the past 50 years, and both congressmen were found to have engaged in either corruption and/or embezzlement. Expulsion has historically been reserved solely for congresspeople who violate the law and commit flagrant crimes, and it should stay that way. Whether we like it or not, Marjorie Taylor Greene is the democratically elected representative of Georgia's 14th congressional district. The people of that district have a moral and a constitutional right to be represented, and they have chosen to have Marjorie Taylor Greene represent them. This argument is made all the more salient by the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene's lunacy all took place before she was elected. Voters knew who they were electing, and Congress has no right to disenfranchise them, no matter how bizarre and appalling their decision was. Furthermore, most case law seems to suggest that the Congress does not have the right to expel Marjorie Taylor Greene, though it's certainly not a settled legal question. While you're certainly right in thinking Ms. Greene's rhetoric and actions are detestable, the disgust many rightly feel does not give anyone license to undermine democracy by attempting to expel her from Congress. Like it or not, she's the voice of Alabama's 14th district, and to silence their voice would be to engage in political repression. Ultimately, though the decision to strip Greene of her committee assignments was a good one, attempts to expel her are fundamentally anti-democratic and likely illegal. If you'd like to hear more about why no one is really sure if Congress can legally expel Marjorie Taylor Greene, check out this other video I did on the relevant legal arguments in case law.